Town Council meeting. Before we get started, just a reminder that the fire exits are behind you or outside, and please don't use the elevators in case of an emergency. And if you need help getting out of the building, let one of us know. I'd like to start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Councilor Katzkorth.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Oh, I like your red.
All right, we'll start with a roll call. Councilor Chiricello.
Good evening.
Councilor Katzkorth.
Good evening.
Councilor Weatherby.
Good evening.
Councilor Flood.
Good evening.
And Councilor Borden and Foote are unable to join us this evening. I'll entertain a motion to open public forum.
So moved.
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? All right, public forum is open if you'd like to come and speak. Just a reminder to please state your name and address for the record.
Sorry. Good evening, Mark Connors, 5 Cabot Drive. Here to talk about a couple things, and I'll try and keep it brief. As I think most of you know, President of the Derry Rail Trail Alliance, you guys took a vote a few weeks back related to not taking a position on asking DOT for the tunnel or for the alternative. This has now been, as I think you all know, a bill was introduced by our state reps, Steve Pearson, Catherine Perdomo O'Brien, and David Love, that has been in front of the Finance Committee now for a couple of weeks up at the State House. Bill has been amended to take out some of the language related to penalties and putting people in jail. It's really focused on the rail trail. I've attended the hearings, and I've asked that the town councilors also kind of get involved and make your positions known to the folks at the State House. I was there today. Thank Brian Chiricello for being town councilor that did come up. It was an interesting discussion, and it has been, in that I believe the committee has taken this very seriously. The chair actually came to Derry last week on Thursday, walked the area. There's a lot of questions about how DOT went about this, and also about the letter from Mr. Cass that came to you folks only shortly before your vote, which appears to have, at least from your own testimonies here, maybe changed some of your votes, or at least, influenced you. So that committee stated at the end of today's meeting that they were going to retain the bill because they need more testimony. And the thing that was mentioned by them is they want to hear from each and every one of you counselors. Mr. Chiricello was there. During his testimony, the chair asked Mr. Chiricello, all things equal, if Derry didn't have to pay for this tunnel, would you want the tunnel? And Mr. Chiricello said yes. He then clarified to say, well, there are some timeline impacts and things that might, also need to be taken into account. But I got to give credit to the Finance Committee. They've kind of questioned why it's in front of the Finance Committee. They've gone through the whole history. But they really have said today was, we need to hear from the town council. We need to understand what has happened as far as with this, particularly with this letter from DOT. They have a lot of questions as to how the spaghetti plan has gotten as far as it has. They are doing their homework. Some of them don't think it should be in front of them. Mr. Chiricello mentioned today it shouldn't have been in front of the town council. I think we all agree that it never should have gotten as far as it did. Unfortunately, DOT did not follow its own processes in involving the folks early on. This is not going away. State groups are involved. The National Rail Trails Coalition is now involved, even if this Finance Committee doesn't take action. The biggest thing I have that I wanted to point out to you folks is that somehow this has kind of gotten flipped 180 degrees. The tunnel has always been in the plan. It was the original. It was in the 10-year plan of the state. It was in the Gassett hearings. We came here, Executive Counselor Janet Stevens, so on and so forth. All of that was there. DOT has flipped it to where it's the town asking for something new, and that was the testimony that came today. The town is asking for this tunnel to be put into the plan at the last minute. No. The alternate plan is the new plan. It has not even received federal approvals. So they kind of pulled a little reversal, and it convinced everybody that the...
Mr. Connors, if you can hold
sorry.
the-
Just move to extend. Oh, sorry, thank you. 30 seconds. Appreciate that.
Is there a second?
Yeah. So again, representations have been made. I would encourage you all, it's on YouTube. I can send you all the link. Hopefully you know how to find the links. Finance Committee 1. Today was a meeting, last week was a meeting. DOT went up and stood in front of that committee and made claims that you, the town council, wanted the alternative. And they pointed to the 7-0 vote, but the 7-0 vote was for you guys not to take a position. They are now spinning that to where you, the town council, want the alternative. They put it on Mr. Karen as well, that the town administrator has been the one demanding the tunnel and saying that or demanding the alternative and saying that it's cheaper for Derry in the long run. I would ask, and we have been asking, Mr. Karen did make a statement publicly that the tunnel would be 3 times the cost to maintain for Derry. That has again been brought up. We've asked for those actual numbers of maintenance, and we've shown the town and this council, or the finance committee, numbers that disprove that. Mr. Karen did make a point that
Mr. Connors, if you could wrap,
depreciating the tunnel, if you want to depreciate the tunnel, that's the only way that this is more expensive. So he has depreciated $1 million tunnel over 100 years and so on and so forth. But there hasn't been an equal comparison to depreciating the bridge, which will last half the time. So we need you guys to get involved. I really encourage you to reach out to Rep. Leishman, who is heading this committee. He wants to hear from each one of you if your vote was influenced by that letter by Mr. Cass. And I think you all went on the record to state that it was. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Madam Chair, I just need a point, because my name was brought
Okay.
up.
The young
I just need a
man.
quick clarification, because what was posed to me is if I was king for the day,
Right.
what would you do? And you didn't have to pay for anything, what would you do? And I'd said, yeah, sure, you want to give me the tunnel for free? Fine. However, the part that bothers me the most is the delay in the project and the cost that is involved with that. I just want to make that clear.
I would encourage everybody to watch the video. Your testimony is very clear about what you said.
Thank you.
Good evening.
Hi.
I'm Calvin Philibert, 3 Little John Court in Derry. And I wanted to look into putting in a stop sign down to close where I live. So northbound on Fordway Extension at the intersection of Bower Road, it's posted that it is a 35 mile per hour zone, but people go like way over 50. And I've been, that's been an issue for all the years I've lived in Derry, and all the times I ever want to just cross the road. I have to wait to try to get the cars to stop. And I'll do all the research I need to do to get this in, because this is important to me to make just make the area a little bit safer. Just wanted to present the idea to you. Thank you.
Thank you.
So just, so the Highway Safety Committee
Right.
is the first place to stop
Okay.
for that. So they review these things. If they approve it, it comes to the town, approve, disapprove, whatever, the town council hears about it. So the Highway Safety Committee is where you want to start that process.
Okay.
We're the final step. If they approve it and, it comes to us, then, we decide our thing.
All right.
And I'll say that if you need help getting in touch with them, that's my district, so let me know and I'd be happy to help you.
All right. Thank you.
Hi. Have you reported this to the highway safety or anybody about this?
Not yet.
It's a serious matter and it should be taken care of.
I just wanted to present the idea to start, and I'll do all the research I need to do.
Okay. We'll look into it, honey.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
So do you know when the Highway Safety Committee meets?
Yeah.
I'm wondering if it's a Monday morning type thing, and he's probably.
Well, I think you have to get on their agenda first, Brian. So I think, reach out. In fact, Mike, I
Mike's
see
in
you
the
kind of
audience.
looking
He can
back.
answer that question.
If you could just tell him who to reach
Is it
out to
Monday morning?
and how.
Is it Monday morning?
Aha. Here he is.
No problem. So, as a matter of fact, I'm going to be presenting the Highway Safety Committee tonight, just their yearly update. Highway Safety Committee meets on the third Thursday of every month, 9 o'clock in the morning at the Municipal Center. The way it works is anybody who has an interest for specific concern, if it's speeding or otherwise, they reach out to the DPW Secretary, Jill Jamro, at 603-432-6144, or reach out to her via email, and she can make arrangements to put you on the agenda for that meeting. Usually we shut the agenda down about a week before, just like the town council meetings are done in advance. So pretty straightforward, and she can guide you through that process.
Thanks, Mike.
Good evening. Richard Tripp, 44 Wyndham Road. It's interesting that, I don't remember the young man's name, but he brought up the thing about Bowers Road. I've brought that up about 3 times, and all I've asked for is a piano crossing there so that people are aware that there's a crossing there, because I agree that people, like he said, that people drive a little fast. The other thing is that there's a slight curve coming in both ways, so people can't see, if people were crossing, especially if they're going fairly fast. It kind of amazes me that nobody's got hurt yet, but it doesn't seem like putting a simple crosswalk would be a problem there, especially since the crosswalk at Folsom Road is going to be such a temptation for people to walk across, even though they might have a tunnel or the scenic route crossing. I refuse to call it a spaghetti crossing, because I'm not Irish, not Italian, but it doesn't seem like a nice thing to say about it, a spaghetti. Anyhow, I watched the finance hearing last week, and it was quite interesting. It was quite reminiscent of the hearings or the forums that we had here. There was a lot of rail trail people there, actually 2 rail trail people, 2, 3, 4, I don't know. And they got to speak for a long time. Like Representative Pearson, I think he probably talked for a half hour. And then we had Mr. Connors, you know how quick he is. I think he talked about a half hour too. DOT finally got to testify, and the committee decided that the hearing had gone too long on, I think it's House Bill 506, and they told DOT to come back. So it was one of those things where DOT has never got to tell their side of the story. I guess today they might have got to tell the side of the story. But it's one of those things that I agree with Representative Churchello, Councilor Churchello, that if it's not going to cost anything.
Move to extend 30 seconds.
Second.
30 seconds? I'll try to get done in 30 seconds.
Thank you.
If I go over, can I get extended again?
We'll see.
A little bit, oh, yeah, good. Because I like the sound of my voice,
Sometimes.
All right, you wasted 15 seconds.
All right, so anyhow, now I've lost my, let's see. Anyhow, yes, if it wasn't going to cost the town anything, I would agree that
It's gonna cost
a
us.
tunnel would probably be a good idea. But if it's going to delay it 6 months, that's a bad idea. I drive by 93, and I see they're building the exit off the road already. So I don't think it'd be a good idea for the road to come up to where the rail trail crossing is and then put it into the halt mode for I don't know how many months. The other thing that I find interesting about...
hold on one moment, because you're now at a minute. Or do we have
I'm a minute
another?
over now? Let's see. Oh, I see it does say 0. That's another thing I want to complain about. I can't see the timer here. So, all right, I'm gonna be quiet and let somebody else speak. Bye.
Thank you. Would anyone else like to speak?
Madam Chair, we see none rise online.
Seconds?
So, Mark Connors, 5 Cap Drive again. I guess I'll speak just quickly as the rail trail president now. I was kind of speaking on my own last time. Mr. Tripp, I'm not sure of his time as far as how long I spoke and how long Mr. Pearson spoke. First of all, Mr. Pearson, it was his bill. He gets to speak as long as he wants. He's the person who brought the bill up there. I did kind of give them the whole history going back to show that Exit 4A has been in the plans the whole time. DOT actually did speak before that, so a little bit out of sequence just to make sure you guys, again, I think the key here is if we were all dealing in facts from day one, would have never came to you, would have never got to the state. DOT made their case. They made some misstatements which were corrected today. Again, I encourage all of you. I think it's the most important thing happening in Derry in a long time. Some have likened it to the fire station vote and other things. Clearly, the rail trail is good for the town. Clearly, it's economic development. One of the things that was brought up is that the corner lots that the trail is now slated to run across, which I've raised before you, is 2 homes. That's going to be one of the busiest intersections in Derry, and actually the committee brought this up because they are the finance committee today. We are rezoning those lots commercial. I'm on the planning board, Brian's on the planning board, he testified to this today. Most likely those homes, while they are grandfathered in and those people don't ever have to sell if they don't want to, those are going to be some very valuable 2-house lots on the corner of the most busy intersection coming off of 93 into Derry. Most likely, and it was discussed today, that'll probably end up being some sort of a service station, a 7-Eleven, a plaza. Even the finance committee talked about this, so please watch the video. We're now going to have the busiest rail trail in the state running across what will probably be a parking lot at some point. It's not going to work, folks. Nobody's paying attention to this. I implore you, you have an opportunity to fix this. The Finance Committee has said if we do vote for this bill and we give DOT the money for this, does the town want this? If you guys really want this, it's time to speak up. Once this road is built, they are filling in and closing down the M&L corridor. There are 4 bridges. Go to Exit 5. Londonderry got 4 train-size bridges on the same rail trail because we thought the trains might come back. How is a trail going to navigate this alternative? It's not. And I don't think the trains are coming back necessarily. But the point is, we've got to make the right choice for Derry, and we need our representatives to stand up. This is going to be here for over 100 years. You're not going to build a tunnel later on when we say, oops, this is a mistake. Get it right now, please.
How much does it cost? Well, 3 minutes, okay. One of the things that's never mentioned when they talk about the tunnel is that, I've looked at some of the maps that, Richard Tripp, Wyndham Road. I forgot, I'm sorry. That's never mentioned when they talk about the tunnel is I've gone on to the DOT website, and it's interesting that the tunnel, most people would think that it's going to go down. It's going to be underground because you don't want a bump in the road. Well, I don't believe that's the case because the map, the drawing that I saw said that it was like bedrock is like 2 feet below where the tunnel's going to go. So essentially what's going to happen is you're going to raise up the road about 10 feet. And if you've ever gone out and looked at Folsom Road, it's like a ski hill. I think the idea of not having a tunnel, which would raise the road up, the grade of the road up, and have the scenic route, which raises the bottom up. It basically, instead of having a ski hill, you've got a road that doesn't have that much grade. I think that DOT had talked about that too, saying that they'd had to do some things to get it down to where it was ADA compliant. So listening to the hearing last week, I sit in a lot of hearings and I hear a lot of great tales. And I have to admit that the tales that I heard at the Finance Committee last week probably outdid any of the other stories that I've ever heard. Thank you.
Thank you. I'm gonna stop this. This has been debated, and this has been voted on by this council. We're not gonna get into a running debate.
No.
So I'm
Just
sorry.
some facts, though. And
I
Mr. Chair-
understand.
No, listen, no, we're
Thank
done.
you.
We're done.
We're not getting into a debate on this. This council voted on this topic.
To close the public
And we're gonna
forum.
go from
Second on the
there.
public hearing closure.
Yes.
I have a motion and a second to close public forum. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Public forum is closed. Thank you. All right, moving on to the consent agenda. We have item 2314, approve the minutes from the January 17th, 2023 meeting. And item 2315, which is Resolution 2023-012, to approve a supplemental appropriation for the purchase of land on English Range Road for the conservation and water system purposes. And there will be a public hearing on that resolution on February 21st, 2023. Is there a motion to accept the consent agenda?
To accept.
Second.
All those in favor? Do I have to do a roll call for consent? No. Okay, all those in favor, sorry. Good, aye. Any opposed? And chair votes aye as well. Moving on to the chair report, we have some committee presentations tonight. The first one is James Degnan for the Conservation Commission.
Good evening, everybody. James Degnan, Chair of the Conservation Commission. I want to take a minute before we go into some of the information about conservation to thank all of our volunteers in town, whether it be Town Council, ZBA, Planning Board. It takes a lot of time and effort to make sure you get to the meetings and be part of something that helps shape Derry for the better. And so if you've ever volunteered or are thinking about volunteering, talk to somebody involved. And if you have, thank you. So, presenting conservation information tonight. We had a fantastic year. We met about 14 times as a group last year. Straight from our bylaws for the public's understanding what conservation does, and our purpose as a board is to assist in protecting the natural and water resources, make recommendations on wetland permits to the New Hampshire Wetlands Board pursuant to various provisions of RSA 36-A. Along with those things, we are actively involved in trail maintenance on those properties, promoting active recreation across those. We do some timber harvest work on some of our properties, and we had a lofty set of goals last year. We met some of those goals, and so this year our approach going forward, in fact we met last night, was to go quarter by quarter and have a sustainable action plan as we move through. So I'll share some of those at the end, but for the public who are watching on TV, wanted to share a little bit of a map here of the town of Derry to get an understanding of what parcels we have in conservation. For a town of our size, what we've have under conservation, both private in pink, state-owned in white, and then town-owned and town-owned recreation in green, is fairly impressive. And so we appreciate those that have helped contribute to these properties over the years and are actively looking for folks in town. If you are considering donating for conservation purposes, to please reach out to the Conservation Commission. Next slide, Owen, if you wouldn't mind. Sure. So one of our major wins as a commission was to work with UNH student Andrew Butler on some fur bearer monitoring. You may recall we talked about that was underway last time we gave a discussion here to the council. We received the first cycle of reports. We found the information to be very good to know for the animal activity within Derry. We have a vast flora and fauna here. We also have a hunting community in town who may want to know what's out on these parcels. Brought tonight a couple of the images of that study. Here we have an image of a red fox off Gulf Road, indicated by the arrow. Next slide. We have a bobcat at Broadview, a little blurry as it's on the move, but one of our more popular areas. You can see that. Go ahead, Owen. Here we have some coyote pups off Weber Forest. You can see 3 of them there, quite young, right? Exceptional size. Next one. And here we have a coyote traipsing through the woods at Broadview. The reason why we show these images is the commission has voted to continue to engage with UNH for an additional 3 years on this study, in which we'll continue to get yearly updates on the quantity and what animals are seen in our town, which I continue to think is kind of an accessory part of what conservation should be doing. Next slide. Second thing you see here, we've talked a lot about trail maps, and we've talked a lot about signage and how do we promote our recreation in town. One of the things we've done as a commission is starting to work with commissions abroad. We talked about that at the last time we had a checkup. We had kind of a summit of Hampstead and Chester and Derry and Sandown. One of the things that came to light was that Hampstead and Pelham, or Plastow, pardon me, are starting to kind of interconnect trail systems for the public to understand what's not just in their town but around. And we think it might be a good idea for our commission to join them in that effort. This is part of their commission's work to map trails. In fact, one of their members is a former software engineer in the GPS space. And so we've done a couple of little mock-up tests to see how they work. And to be honest, I think they're fairly good mapping systems. We've done a great job internally in town, but we may be investigating, or we're committing to investigate further and discussing with other commissions on how to make one collective map system for those around Rockingham County. That's the end of that. And so just an idea of what we're looking for in Q1 in terms of short porch goals. We want to update some signage at Broadview. We've had a lot of public feedback that we've got some dog fouling issues out there, so we want to bring some signage over there stating that it needs to be picked up and removed, promoting our responsibility of the dog owner. Second, we have a Shepherd property pretty close to Broadview that has a trail system that used to exist down to a picnic area off
Pond Road.
Pond Road. That trail system has now become overgrown, but we have maintained the picnic area. So again, based on a butter feedback, we need to spend Q1 probably closer to the spring side, reopening that trail system. Third thing, pardon me, is we are going to be updating a couple of our pages on our website to include kind of a cleaner picture of all the parcels in one. Right now, we've got them broken up a little bit. We have an idea to consolidate that. And then we have a new our Parks Department has done a fantastic job mowing at Broadview. There was some additional trails brought in at the height of the pandemic, but due to the bird habitat out there and the monitoring work that we've done with UNH, we're going to ask that some of those trail systems kind of be narrowed in a little bit, and some of the accessory trails that zigzag through that property that break up the continuity be changed. So we're going to set a meeting with them to kind of map out what that trail system would look like, and it shouldn't be much different than it was a couple of years ago, truth be told. So those are our short-term goals. We have a couple of goals already building for Q2. We've got some invasive control we need to do on the Doolittle property, which we had a timber harvest on a few years ago, and we are working to create a public session, possibly at the library, for conservation easements for public consumption to understand how they may be able to donate their land or work with conservation commissions to put things into production. So I hope that was brief enough. Any questions?
Good job.
Awesome, Jim.
Good job.
Good. Thank you, folks.
I'll just add in, you know, if anybody has not been out to some of the conservation properties in town, go on the town website. I mean, you would be, you know, you think this is like this, you know, urban town or whatever, but, you know, you get out there and you might as well be in the White Mountains in some spots.
Beautiful.
It's really, really nice. You'll see all kinds of wildlife that you never expect to see around here.
David.
And it's really, really fun. And the Conservation Commission, over the years, historically, and particularly under James's chairmanship, has done a phenomenal job of promoting these and getting the word out.
Apologize. One last comment. We do have 2 vacancies as an alternate, and if you are in town, again, interested, please reach out. We'd love to have you come on and have a conversation with us. So 2 openings.
And it's a really fun commission. I've been the liaison to the commission for my entire council time, and I started there before I came to the council. And it's a fun commission. So if you have interest in this, just it's not a ton of work. Just go and sign up and see if you enjoy it.
Yeah, I was on that
Thank
committee
you.
for years.
That would be a good one. Neil hasn't let anyone else on, so I can't get on there, so.
You're taking it next year.
Maybe I'll take next year. All right, our next presentation is the Highway Safety Committee with our Public Works Director, Mike Fowler, presenting.
All
right, good evening. I'm here on behalf of the Highway Safety Committee. I'll start out by, just for members of the public, the Highway Safety Committee was created back in the 1960s as a result of a way or mechanism to gain state and federal funds. The committee has evolved as a citizen-based committee with also the attendance of the major departments in the town for technical expertise, public works, fire, police, and the school district. So oftentimes, many of the concerns that come to this committee are based on, they could be speeding, they could be at a stop sign, at a yield sign, and they also look at many of the technical, the larger developments, such as the ones that are in the West Running Brook District. We looked at those this year, just to make sure that some of the engineers' recommendations are congruent with some of the larger traffic plans, and also that gets looked at the planning board level. So the members of the committee, just I'll briefly mention them. Chairperson Scott Savard, co-chair, who's somebody that's familiar with us, is Dan Healy, Randy Chase, Ron Golwaith, and Walter Deo. Jill Jambro is the secretary for this particular committee and does a wonderful job at keeping everybody in line and keeping the meetings on track. In terms of last year, they reviewed 9 cases during 7 months of meetings. So the committee plans to,
I'm sorry, Mike, just for the public's benefit, can you mention the department heads that are involved in this?
Oh, yeah, sure. So the department heads involved would be myself or Alan Cote. Sometimes we both attend those meetings. Chief Richardson from the fire department attends those meetings, and Chief Fioli is involved in those meetings, and sometimes we'll send a secondary person who has some expertise in that area. And then the school department, usually that's Jane Samard or a designee. So it's a one-stop shop to discuss any safety concerns that may come up, and they may be anywhere across the board. So as I mentioned, the committee met 7 times in 2022. They dealt with 9 cases. In some instances, those cases were referred with no action to the town council. In some instances, they were brought forward. I think one thing that's important to note is when we receive a concern, oftentimes about speeding, one of the first actions that the committee will recommend is that the town or DPW owns a speed strip that basically you put across the road. You see it counts the number of cars, but it also registers the speeds that those vehicles are going at. We usually keep that out for about a week, and it gives us an opportunity to get a profile and to validate maybe what is a concern or to disprove the thought process that vehicles are traveling too fast. And then obviously the police department would have a role if there needed to be some step up in enforcement. Public Works gets involved if there's some signage, and obviously fire looks at this in schools from any of their concerns that they have. So it's a pretty broad and diverse committee looking to meet the needs of the citizens. So with that, in closing, I was up here a few minutes ago just to indicate the committee meets once a month, 9 a.m. on the third Thursday, and it meets in this particular room. Anybody who has a safety concern can reach out to Jill Jambro, who's the secretary of the committee. You put on the agenda, as long as you get something in about a week beforehand, we generally can get you in on that month unless we have an agenda that's already filled. And much as James had talked about for the Conservation Committee, this committee is always looking for new members. I think currently we're filled, but certainly there are openings every March. So if there's any interest in getting involved with this committee, we'd recommend that you'd reach out to Sheila Bodenrader in the Town Administrator's office, and she can guide you in that direction, or you can fill out an online form. So with that, any questions?
Thank you, Mike. Anyone have questions?
All right, thank you.
Thank you. All right, we can move on to the town administrator's report.
Okay, thank you. First up this evening, we have our CFO, Mark Fleischer, who will update the council on our financial performance at mid-year.
Arrows up and down.
Good evening. Can you hear me okay? So let's discuss the second quarter financial results. So December is 50% through the fiscal year, as Dave mentioned. For fiscal '23, our general operation revenues are 80% of budget at 12/31/22. Our expenses were at 70% of budget. Keep in mind that revenues and expenses can run higher due to contractual obligations that are booked for the entire year. In FY '22, our general operational revenues were at 62% of budget, and our expenses were 57%. Operations does not include taxes, overlay, TIF, capital, EMT revenues, or expenses. So some of the revenue variations that we had in the second quarter, revenue tracking year to date, fire was ahead of the 50% benchmark due to receipts of contracted ambulance and dispatch services, and ambulance revenue is trending above that 50% benchmark. In tax, motor vehicle registrations are 52% of budget in total, but we are still seeing fluctuations due to lease renewal conversion and lower new car inventory. For example, the title application revenue is only 48.3% of budget at 12/31. In IT, intergovernmental revenue from cable, water, and wastewater has been recorded in the first quarter. In OMO, interest revenue was 294.4% of budget. We have received a $20 million bond and bond premium in quarter one, and we received the meals and rooms tax for the year in quarter two. Buildings and grounds, the annual cable rent has been recorded. In town clerk, UCC fees, vital records, and civil forfeiture revenue is greater than 50%. In planning applications are 222% of budget. Some of the areas that are below the 50% benchmark, and some of these are just timing, actually probably most of them are. In health, the annual health permits will be processed in quarter 3 and 4. In administration, the business license revenue is 39.4% of budget. In police, the annual school resource officer billing will be processed in quarter 4. Human services, repayments of assistance is only 9.7% of budget. Town clerk, dog license revenue is 28.8% of budget, but it is anticipated to increase during quarter 3 and 4. In the cemetery, burial and cremation revenue is 44.8% of budget. In parks, we have not received any adopt-a-field revenue. In highway, inspection fees are 10.9% of budget. And at the transfer station, furniture recycling, which includes mattresses, is 16.3% of budget. On the expense side, some of the departments that are actually departments are trending individually between 18% of budget and 91% of budget. For fire, they have 3 vacant positions at 12/31. That's 2 paramedic/firefighter positions. In police, they have 2 patrolmen and 1 dispatcher that was vacant. I believe they have hired a dispatcher at this point. Some of the expenses that have exceeded the 50% benchmark in fire, their overtime is 82.3% of budget, but that can be offset due to their vacancies. In IT, annual software support payments. OMO, annual hydrant and general insurance payments have been paid for the entire year. And the $20 million bond and bond premium was transferred to the capital project funds. In assessing, annual assessing contract is encumbered. Human services, the annual agency payments were encumbered. And in highway, the annual roadway maintenance was encumbered. Transfer station, annual contracted services was encumbered. Some other information that you might find useful. At 12/31/22, the $20 million fire station and culvert bond and bond premium proceeds have accrued $275,199 in interest, which can be spent on those projects. The interest rate at 12/31/22 was 4.45%. And staying on the subject of general fund interest, the town's average general fund interest rate was 2.47 for December 2022. That's outside of the bond interest. December 2021, the average interest was 0.12%. So this increase in rates has contributed to the general fund interest revenue exceeding budget. And glad to take questions.
Any questions?
No, good job.
Great presentation, Mark.
Yeah,
Thank you.
So,
Go ahead.
Yep.
you kind of highlighted some of the stuff. Any areas of concern that you see or the town sees at this point?
Not at this time. The third quarter financials is the key. That's the one where you really see how you're shaking out for the year, three months. So, 3 months left in the fiscal, we can really tell at that point where we are, but I think at this point, we're doing well.
The planning revenues are absolutely phenomenal.
That's
really
those are
good.
projects that I guess are coming down the road, which is good. And building permits has started to rebound as well.
Excellent.
Every week I give Dave a report of the revenues, so we can see our trends. Thank you.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you very much, Mark.
Okay, a reminder, Frost Fest is not this Saturday. It's a week from Saturday on February 18th, downtown from 12 to 3. However, returning this year for the first time in many years is the spaghetti supper over at the Pinkerton Academy Senior Cafe. That's on Friday the 17th. Bingo at 5, dinner at 5 to 7, free of charge, although they will be accepting donations for local charities. The focal point of Frost Fest will be over in the Benson Lawn where the farmers market is planted each summer. There's going to be s'mores there. There's going to be a fire pit. There'll be a food truck there as well. Ice sculptures across the street at Sabatino's. Weather permitting, we're hoping for skating at Hood Park, tobogganing and sledding over at the Alexander Car Park. And also, if you want to get inside from the cold weather, go to Vets Hall or the museum. There'll be puppet shows at Vets Hall put on by Derry Library at noon and 1 o'clock. Also, there'll be dancing and games, and the Museum of History will be open to the public this year. So it looks like a fun-filled event. It'll be, again, a week from Saturday the 18th, and the spaghetti supper is the night before, Friday the 17th. We're starting that time of year to jump into budgeting issues. The capital improvements plan, Mark did an excellent job pulling that together, and we'll be presenting that to the planning board a week from tomorrow night, February 15th. After that, we jump into the budget. As you all know, our budget is constructed under the constraints of a tax cap. This year, that tax cap is 6.1%. It was 5.9 last year. We brought the operating in at about 2.9. So I've not seen, obviously, the department impacts from inflation, but it's our goal to bring the operating in, at 3%. That's what our goal is. Hopefully we'll make it. I'll know more as we move forward. And last meeting, Chief Fioli was before you to request acceptance of a NALO box from the South Central Public Health Network, and we asked the council to allow us to accept donations up to $5,000, which is allowed under the law. And the chief was notified, in which they will be receiving an additional 10 boxes to be distributed in public buildings throughout the community. So the chief will be getting together with staff and fire to identify the best locations.
What is in the box?
It's essentially for overdoses, and there's the number of, there's mass there and instructions and Narcan, and so those will be distributed throughout the community in 10 locations.
They're all trained on how to use it?
There's self-training with the box. Gives you instructions right there.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Any other questions? All right, thank you, Dave. All right, we're moving on to our public hearing on Resolution 2023-007 to accept a gift from the Derry Rail Trail Alliance with Mike Fowler presenting.
Good evening. I'm pleased to be here this evening and discussing our partnership with Derry Rail Trail and other nonprofit organizations. I think we talk a lot about that throughout the year, and in terms of how this community blends together to come up with some great solutions on various items. One of the items that had been in discussion for a number of years has been the additional flashing beacons at strategic intersections or crossings of the rail trail. So as it currently sets up now, the one that you see that has some high visibility is at Kendall Pond Road, and that was installed, I believe, roughly 5 or 6 years ago. The trail users seem to really appreciate that. We obviously have other locations in downtown and also around Pinkerton Academy in which you have those pedestrian actuated buttons that you can push, and that will provide motorists approaching with a warning that somebody is attempting to cross. So in the last, I believe, 12 to 18 months, Mark Connors and I have had some discussions over email about some other locations. He was able to work through his own fundraising and also with the assistance of Alexander Eastman Foundation to raise $16,430 for 2 sets of 2 beacons. And we have tentatively identified the locations to be Bowers Road and South Avenue. So the idea would be the town council, by state statute, has to accept this gift. It exceeds the threshold. So this is basically, it's just housekeeping so that when the spring hits, DPW will take those units, put in the concrete foundations, and then they will be activated shortly thereafter. So it's a good partnership, and the town Department of Public Works is appreciative of the opportunity to install those, and so we recommend that the town council obviously hear the public in this matter, but also recommend that they vote affirmatively to accept that, and the town DPW will be installing those shortly thereafter.
Move to open the public hearing?
Motion to open public hearing and a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? All right, public hearing is open. If anyone would like to speak?
Steve. So again, Mark Connors, 5 Cabot Drive, president of the Derry Rail Trail Alliance, and we're very pleased to be here on this topic. Again, positive. We are constantly working to make the trail safer and better in Derry, and it's not just Mark Connors, it's the Derry Rail Trail Alliance board, and there are a number of folks on our board that make all this happen and involve in fundraising and so on and so forth. This particular situation, I just want to clarify, Mike, I think you mentioned Bowers and Kendall Pond, Broadway and Kendall Pond, was that not correct?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
correct.
so I just wanted to make sure we were on the same page. So, we were able to secure a grant through the Alexander Eastman Foundation for $7,000 for one of the sets of beacons, roughly. Unfortunately, we found out a little bit late. Maybe it was me, I missed the agenda, but we didn't know about this hearing tonight until I was on my way to Concord to talk about the rail trail tunnel up in Concord today. So I called Mr. McPherson from the Alexander Eastman Foundation. We originally hoped to come in with a big check and kind of present that, and that way Alexander Eastman Foundation got their public credit. So we would like to make that kind of a presentation at some point. Dave was not able to come tonight, but we would like to do that kind of photo op at some point if you guys are amenable to that, but no sense tying up the acceptance of the gift tonight. So just briefly, Alexander Eastman allocated $7,000. The Derry Rail Trail Alliance kicked in the additional $9,000 some odd dollars to make up the difference for the 2 sets. We did establish that the Broadway crossing actually versus Bowers Road is where one of these sets is going. That's been a problematic crossing. You heard, I think, in some other public hearings from folks who run the businesses down there about people getting hit in that crosswalk and that sort of thing. So we're very excited to put that piece together, especially with the farmers market. It'll be helpful for the farmers market crossing people as well. And then Kendall Pond has also been a troublesome spot where people kind of do zip through there as a cut through because they come off of, when they're coming from exit 4, they'll take that right and then that left and to cut down through to get around downtown. So Mr. Tripp has brought up Bowers Road a couple times, so when Mike said that, I do want to be clear, we've been working with Mike and the town for years on the Bowers Road situation, and as you know, there used to be a bridge there too, for those of you that don't know the history. There was an old wooden bridge that went up and over the rail. So a train went through there, but there was an old rickety bridge that went up and over basically for Bowers Road. They did put in, when the town, I guess in the 80s, took out that bridge and the one at Madden Road, where we're talking about putting the new tunnel in, they did put in 6-foot metal culverts, for those of you that have been on the rail trail, because you're supposed to keep the continuity of an old rail bed. So the town did have the foresight to do that. When we paved that section of trail, we wanted a box culvert there too, but the Derry Rail Trail and the town didn't have the extra $500,000 to put a concrete box tunnel in. So what we got was that slope up to the road, which for those of you who are familiar with that, when you're riding your bike there, that is just about a 5%, Mike can correct me on the exact percentage, that is just about a 5% ADA compatible slope, and then down on the other side of Bowers. For those who ride it, we do get complaints about that little 5% grade, and so think about that, in other contexts. But we're very excited to put these beacons in. We do want to do something at Bowers, to Mr. Tripp's, but the way we had to design that, because we couldn't get the box culvert, was up on this side and then across the road at an angle and then down on the other side of Bowers, so it doesn't line up where you can get a straight across crosswalk. Mike and I have been talking about, can we pave the apron a little bit on this side of the road to have the trail kind of stay off the road and then do a 90-degree and a crossing? So at some point, the rail trail is prepared to perhaps put in another set of beacons, fund another set of beacons at Bowers, but the trick is you can't have an angled crosswalk, as I understand it, going across it like a 45 across the intersection. So the town should, and hopefully we'll continue to work on how we address that. But very excited to be putting these beacons in. I hope it saves some lives. And again, the Derry Rail Trail Alliance Board, whether I'm on it or not in the future, will continue to focus on the safety of the rail trail and making it great. And I do want to reiterate, we're bumping heads with, with the town and Dave and maybe Mike a little bit on this whole tunnel thing. We have a great partnership, as Mike said. I want everybody to realize that this town has done more for our rail trails than most towns, and we appreciate that. We've got a lot done, and we've been waiting to get this connection to Londonderry for over 10 years. When we first founded DRTA, my kids were little kids. I testified to this in Concord. They were on 5 and 6 years old on little single-speed bikes, and we went to Wyndham and rode their trail and saw this beautiful paved trail.
Mr. Connors, if I can have you come back to the
And I'm
topic
just
at
saying,
hand.
we have done a lot in Derry. We've been waiting for this connection to Londonderry. We have a great partnership with the town. However this comes out, we hope that partnership continues. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Mike.
Move to close. Oh.
No.
You were so close.
You want his vote?
Good evening, Richard Tripp, 44 Wyndham Road. I want to thank Alexander Eastman and the Derry Rail Trail Alliance for donating the money so that we can get another set of blinkers. This is going to be at Broadway?
Broadway and South.
Broadway and South.
Yeah, 2 sets. There'll be 2 sets, one at Broadway at the crossing with the depot, and then the second one would be at the South Ave crossing by the ball field.
Because this is one of those things where the rail trail does get a lot of use, and people do like to drive rapidly in Derry, and people. I think both South and Broadway, it's fairly obvious that there are people are waiting to cross, but I know the blinking lights, draws the attention of the drivers to the people waiting, and since there is a crosswalk, that I believe it's the law that the people have to stop. So I think it's very nice that we're going to get 2 more set of lights, and maybe someday we'll do something at Bowers Road. Yeah, but and oh, by the way, I have walked through the culvert at Bowers Road because I wanted to walk the rail trail, not over it. I have to admit I've never walked through the Folsom Tunnel, but I do make use of the rail trail on occasion. So thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else like to speak?
Move to
Madam Chair,
close.
seeing none, rise online.
Sorry.
Thank you.
Move to close.
Motion to close public hearing.
So moved, Madam Chair.
We'll count that as second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Okay. Questions from the council?
Mike, when do you anticipate, in particular, the Broadway, obviously, I'm wondering if it'll be, in place for farmer's market opening and this and that, because it's definitely a mutual benefit for sure.
Yeah, basically, our plan is as soon as the frost clears, we've always had a couple of cold nights here. It's reasonable to probably expect us to be doing the work in April.
Okay, excellent. That'll be great. So, anybody else?
I have, so our packet says it is going at Bowers Road, so is that?
Yeah, that's my
inaccurate?
mistake.
Okay.
That's my mistake in marking.
We were so
Yep.
close, Richard, we were almost
Yep.
there.
Yeah, that's my mistake.
See, now, if Richard was sitting here on the council, he'd say that's a technicality and we wanted to Bowers Road.
I'm not going to lie, I was checking the actual resolution, like.
Your resolution says 2 roads.
Yes, the resolution is not clear, sorry, can't make that. Okay, I just wanted to clarify.
So I will make a motion to adopt resolution number 2023-007 to accept a gift from the Derry Rail Trail Alliance, whereas RSA 31:95-E authorizes the town council to accept gifts other than money to be used for any public purpose, and whereas the Derry Rail Trail Alliance has provided equipment to augment the use of the multi-use recreational path through Derry, and whereas DRTA has received a grant from the Alexander Eastman Foundation to support DRTA's efforts to provide crossing beacons at 2 intersections. Now therefore be it resolved in council that the town administrator is hereby authorized to accept a gift of personal property at a value of $16,430 for crossing beacons. This resolution shall take effect immediately upon its passage.
Second.
Motion by Councilor Weatherby and a second by Councilor Katsoukaris. Any further discussion? All right, on the motion, Councilor Chiarichello?
Yes.
Councilor Katsoukaris?
Yes.
Councilor Weatherby?
Yes.
And Councilor Flood?
Yes.
And chair votes yes. Motion passes 5-0.
Thank you.
Right, 1, 2, 3, 5, yeah. All right, next up, we have our second public hearing on Resolution 2023-008 to accept a deed for dedicated access upon Lot 10115-23 Village Brook Lane, and to ratify Resolution 2022-066. Town Administrator, Ed presenting.
Yes, good evening, thank you. Resolution 2023-008 emanates back from this past summer and fall, when the council considered laying out a Class A trail over 29 Village Brook Lane. The council actually approved that action at its September 20th meeting. During the course of investigating this situation, we had learned that the original developer was to provide a deed for that dedicated access, which hadn't happened. And so now that legal counsel has reached out to the original developer and has received the deed for that piece of land, we are asking, one, that the council accept the deed, and also just to ensure that this action doesn't eliminate your action taken back in September 20th to reaffirm your layout of the Class A trail. And so that's the recommendation we are making. The council act upon this evening.
Thank you.
Move to open the public hearing.
Second.
Motion to open public hearing, and the second. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right, public hearing is open.
Madam Chair, seeing none, rise online.
Move to close.
Second.
All right, motion to close public hearing and seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? All right. Any comments? from council?
Just a quick question. Do you have the deed on file? I'd eventually like to just take a quick look at it.
Our attorney has a deed currently.
All right, but can we get a copy?
Sure, absolutely.
Okay, thank you.
Are you okay voting without?
Yeah, I mean, if legal's reviewed it and they're fine with it, that's fine. I just wanted to kind of look at it. And I think that this was good resolution, so, to a problem that we had earlier, so.
All right, I will move to adopt resolution number 2023-008 to ratify the acceptance of a deed for a dedicated easement and an earlier vote to accept the easement of as a Class A trail at Harvest Estates. Excuse me. Whereas Section 5.1 of the Town Charter vests in the Town Council the powers of the legislative and governing bodies, and whereas RSA 231-A provides for the acceptance of dedicated access easements as Class A trail, and whereas an easement for future access, a dedication is shown on a plan recorded in the Rockingham County Registry of Deeds as Plan D 18363, and said access runs from lot 10115-23, also known as 29 Village Brook Lane, and land that was later subdivided as Harvest Estates. And whereas the developer that dedicated the easement from the undeveloped land to the subdivision known as Bell Brook Estates, Cooper Homes Incorporated, has now deeded the access to the town of Derry. And whereas the town council voted on September 20th, 2022 to accept the dedicated access pursuant to RSA 231-A:5 as a Class A trail, now therefore be it resolved in council that the deed for the dedicated access is accepted, and the council's September 20, 2022 vote to accept the dedication as a Class A trail across lot 10115-23 as shown on the plan D 18363 with all of the restrictions and rights noted in the September 20th, 2022 vote is hereby ratified. This resolution shall take effect immediately upon its passage.
Second.
Motion by Counselor Weatherby and second by Counselor Katsoukaris. Any further discussion? On the motion, Counselor Chiricello?
Yes.
Counselor Katsoukaris?
Yes.
Counselor Weatherby?
Yes.
Counselor Flood?
Yes.
And chair votes yes. Motion passes 5-0. All right. New business, we have Resolution 2023-013 to accept road names associated with the Exit 4A project. And we have Mike Fowler presenting on it.
Okay, so good evening. Owen's going to put up a slide here, probably the best way to talk, put on the first slide for Agadawi Avenue. Okay, so what you see right here is basically the Londonderry town line. At the upper part or the upper quadrant of this drawing, you have the new road that's being created from Interstate 93 into Derry, which will connect ultimately to Folsom Road. The name of that road is Old Rum Trail. So that'll be the connector road out to the interstate. The back, I think roughly 6 months ago, Dave and I had reached out to the council relative to their stance on either allowing Londonderry to have input on the connector road from Londonderry inbound and to keep that name consistent once it reached the Derry intersection with Folsom Road. The town council, Derry's town council, concurred and permitted Londonderry to create the Old Rum Trail name. So that's all been taken care of. Tonight's discussion, there are two short stubs. So if you notice the configuration at the bottom of this plan, Madden Road, currently it's in that connection where North High Street takes that sweep. Madden Road goes up towards a couple of the businesses up in that area. Those businesses will be relocated as the properties are being taken, or portions of the property are being taken. So Madden Road will now connect to Old Rum Trail, so it's a reconfiguration of that particular area. And what comes of that is on basically the middle of the drawing, there's a short stub that's about 175 feet long that connects the red line that's showing there. That's the Derry-Londonderry town line. And New Hampshire DOT, as they're putting together their final plans, had asked the town, and consulting with us at this point, to come up with a name for that 175-foot stub. So that basically that's going to go into Londonderry. There is an access road from that point to an existing cell tower. So that's kind of tucked up in that little area there. Not a lot of people maybe pay attention to that. But that will be a public road in the future that the town will have responsibility for plowing and maintaining. Again, not going to be a major burden because it's not going to have a lot of traffic. So in the process of going through this, I know typically when the planning board receives a plan for a new subdivision road, they allow the developer to come up with that particular name. It's vetted with the various areas in terms of the fire department, the planning board, and just making sure that the name doesn't conflict with any existing names for E911 purposes. So reached out to Rick Holmes, town historian, and he had suggested this name of Agadawi Avenue. And the story that he had presented was that back in the day in Northern Ireland, Agadawi refers to the town in which Derry's original settlers came from. So I thought it was an appropriate connection. Again, it's got kind of a funky sound. I actually had to go on to I think it was Wikipedia and hit that button to understand how to say it. So Agadawi is the pronunciation for that. So Agadawi Avenue is the first suggested location, suggested road name. All right, Owen, second slide, please. And then this is the intersection where Old Rum Trail would be coming in from the west. You would have North High Street coming in from the south. And to the right or to the east, you have Folsom Road. That's the major intersection that everybody has talked a lot about with a connection of the rail trail and the detention pond. But what hasn't been determined at this point is there will be roughly a 300-foot public road that will be created as a result of the reconfiguration. So there'll be an access that you see in orange that will have to be created for the remnants of the properties that where American Excavating is located. And as a result of that need for public access, there will be roughly a 300-foot new public road. It's a dead end that will be created. So in this instance, I had some conversation with Tom Lannon. He is owner, proprietor, part owner of American Excavating. And he had suggested the name Haley Drive. I believe it's got some family significance to it. It seems to make sense from it doesn't match up with anything that the town currently has. So again, public road. The stance that we're taking in the Public Works and Town Administrator, these are suggestions. Town Council can accept those, and we can move forward and provide those to DOT. Or if there's some thoughts about some alternate names, we wanted to get that in front of you tonight. But I at least wanted to give you with an affirmative recommendation of two names that I think are appropriate for short roads. If you're accepting of those, there is a resolution that can be moved forward this evening, and then I'll pass that along to Wendy Johnson from New Hampshire DOT. If there's some alternate thoughts, maybe we can have some discussion about that this evening and vet that out.
Thank you. Any questions or comments?
I'm glad you pronounced it first. I was like, what? I'll never.
I know, I'm going to be interested to see how people pronounce it.
Agadawi and Shenandoah Road, okay.
Yep.
I'm fine with both of them. I don't have any alternative names, so.
All right, I'll move to adopt resolution number 2023-013 to accept road names associated with the Exit 4A project. Whereas Section 5.1 of the Town Charter vests in the Town Council the powers of the legislative and governing bodies, and whereas the town has partnered with New Hampshire Department of Transportation to design and construct the Exit 4A interchange and corridor, and whereas the design requires creation of 2 new road layouts, and whereas NHDOT has requested the town name these 2 roads. Now therefore be it resolved in council that the council hereby names the spur off Madden Road as Agadawi Avenue, and the road at the intersection of North High Street and at the intersection with North High Street as Haley Drive. This resolution shall take effect immediately upon its passage.
Second.
No, this is not a public hearing. Motion by Councilor Weatherby, seconded by Councilor Katsoukaris. Any further discussion? On the motion, Councilor Chiricello?
Yes.
Councilor Katsoukaris?
Yes.
Councilor Weatherby?
Yes.
Councilor Flood?
Yes.
And chair votes yes, motion passes 5-0. Thank you, Mike. Thank you. Any councilor comments? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I just wanted, Michael, I just wanted to thank the men at the transfer station. They're very friendly, very helpful, and very courteous. And I think they worked on one of the coldest days that the town's ever had. And, you know, they showed up, and I just think the town owes them a thank you.
And I would agree with your sentiment. That job comes with a lot of difficult conditions at times. We talked to the attendants about making sure that they stayed warm on Saturday, but they were all eager and willing and wanting to do that job. Sometimes they're very, very undervalued, and I also want to thank Randy Borelli and all of the crew for their attention to the needs. I mean, many towns shut down. We did not.
I'll say
You trained them well.
I was
Saturday, and they were right there at a detention where they always.
I was going to say that, a lot of other towns did shut down on Saturday, and we stayed open, so kudos to them.
Yep. Thank you.
But you trained them well. They're great. You drive up there, and they're very helpful. They help me sometimes with my stuff if I'm overloaded. And no, they're just very nice. They're very friendly and very courteous. Did a good job hiring them.
Absolutely.
Give them a raise.
All right. Well, that's your job, right? Thank you.
Hey, they deserve it. They're good people.
Anyone else? I just, did you have?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I just want to, and I'll probably say it again, but, I noticed that Councilor Weatherby and Councilor Borden did not re-sign up for council. And I just want to take a quick minute to kind of reminisce a little bit, because me and Councilor Weatherby go back the first I go around, and then we both got off, and then we get back on. So, I just wanted to thank him very much for his service, and I'm sure I'll bring it up again before he leaves. But it's kind of sad for me, because it's like, I look at it as a team, and it'll be, there'll be new people coming in, which is great. Yeah. But I just wanted to thank him for his service for the town, and I'll thank Commissioner Borden too. But thank you.
How can we get you to change your mind?
It's too late now.
Too late now.
It's never too late. Put your name on the ballot and run again.
Oh, my God.
No, you were great.
Oh, I really appreciate that, Brian. And obviously, I still have 2 meetings left, so I'll have more to say before I go. But I've enjoyed my time here, totally.
I just have one thing, and I'll bring more information to the next meeting, but there is going to be a Be the Match event. It's not put on by the Derry Public Library, but it will be held at the Derry Public Library in March. So if you aren't familiar with Be the Match, it is signing up to be a donor if someone is in need. And so if you're interested, you can find information on the Derry Public Library site. And I forgot my paper, but I promised I would mention it tonight, and I will bring more information for the next meeting as well. The ideal age demographic they're looking for is 18 to 40. Not our overall demographic in our meetings usually, but we've got some in the back that might fit there. Not to make judgments on anyone else, but if you're interested, I can put you in touch with the person coordinating, or you can check out the Derry Public Library site. I believe they have some information as well. And on that note, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn. All right, we have a motion to adjourn, and I'll take a second. All those in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned. Have a good night, everyone.